Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC is full of secrets and mysteries to unlock, and one of the biggest is how to unlock the Sword of Darkness and the Sword of Light. So today we're going to be taking a look at how to complete this mystery by uncovering the Stone-Sheathed Sword and the Altars of Light and Darkness so you can wield these awesome secret weapons for yourself. So let's stop wasting time and get after it. As soon as you enter the gravesite plane, you'll need to do a bit of grocery shopping for some crafting materials, and the first one can actually be picked up right on the outskirts of the Scorched Ruins. The ruins can actually be reached by traveling north from the gravesite plane side of Grace, and here you can pick up the Hefty Cracked Pot off a dead body, which is one of the key ingredients in the recipe. Next, you'll need to head over to the Great Bridge north side of Grace, which isn't too far off from the Scorched Ruins, and here you'll need to travel south from the side of Grace to pick up yet another ingredient along with the recipe itself. After entering the rundown Traveler's Rest, you'll be able to pick up the Potentate's Cookbook Volume 2 as well as 2 Furnace Visages, which are pretty rare as crafting materials go, but luckily we really only need one. The next ingredient can be found right near the Pillar Path cross side of Grace, but this particular ingredient is pretty common in the gravesite plane, so chances are you've already picked up a few red flesh mushrooms, but if you haven't, there are a few just north of the side of Grace. It's also important to note that they can also be purchased if you've uncovered the Mushroom Seller's Bell-Bearing 1 and handed it in to the Twin Maiden Husks within the Round Table Hold. The next ingredient can be found by following the highlighted route on the map and uncovering a spirit spring to cut through the Fort of Reprimand and then exiting the fort, traveling to the north to the Morth Ruins side of Grace. Here you'll be searching the nearby camp to the west for a few embers of Mesmer, which is the last ingredient that's on your list. Now that your ingredient list is all complete, you'll need to head to the castle front side of Grace and travel to the northwest through a guarded narrow passage to the Rift Catacombs. If you just follow the path, once you clear the guarded passage, you'll run right into the catacomb doors. After reaching the catacombs, you can open up the doors and run down for a bit to a lift that'll bring you down to the side of Grace. After lighting the side of Grace, you'll need to head through the dungeon in order to find the mysterious sword that starts the hidden weapon questline. Finding it can be pretty tricky since it's fairly well hidden deep within the catacombs. However, if you just follow the game footage, you'll get there in a flash. After getting to this large chamber, you'll need to dip into the alcoves on the side to avoid getting crushed by the spike traps. Just be mindful of the second alcove because if you just roll into it blindly, you'll fall down into a lower level since there's no floor in the alcove. In addition to the spike traps, you'll need to kill a pair of stone imps and the caster that's up top near the coffin. After killing the caster on the raised area and looting the Shadow Realm rune, head back to the north and approach the edge, which will cause the spike ceiling to crash back down again, revealing a small cutout you can hop into and take up to a hidden platform. Then hop onto the platform where you can loot the Ash of War Blink Bolt from a chest and then turn around and jump on top of the ceiling trap as it crashes back down again. Next, just run along the ceiling traps until you come across a large alcove on the right side of the room. Once inside the alcove, you can loot the Stone-Sheathed Sword, which you can transform into either the Sword of Darkness or the Sword of Light. In order to transform the Stone-Sheathed Sword into the Sword of Darkness, you'll need to make your way into the Shadow Keep through the main gate, which can be located by traveling north from the High Road Cross side of Grace, or even by traveling northwest up the road from the Unte Ruins side of Grace, which you've already unlocked. Just make sure that before you take this next step, you're all caught up with the main NPC quest lines, since approaching the keep changes the world state and advances certain main NPC quest lines that may cause you to miss items or even story dialogue. After finally entering the keep, you'll need to take the elevator up to the top, light the side of Grace, and put on your best boss killing setup, since you'll need to face down the Golden Hippopotamus, which can be a bit challenging to some since it's a pretty up close and personal fight within a small area. His moveset is pretty basic, and most of his attacks can be easily avoided by rolling into him. However, once he reaches half health, he'll transform into sort of a golden porcupine and use an AoE attack that rains down golden quills from above. Once you bring him down, it'll allow you access into the keep, where you'll need to run through a small section through a few enemies in order to find a secret passage to a new zone where you can uncover the Altar of Darkness. From the side of Grace, you can just follow the path that I'm taking, which will lead you right to the illusionary wall and the secret passage. After dropping into this well-hidden room, you'll need to uncover yet another secret, which is an illusionary wall that'll lead you down a flight of stairs and around a corner, where you'll need to take a rest in a stone coffin in order to be transported into the next area. Once you exit the coffin into the castle watering hole, you'll need to light the side of Grace and do a little bit of prep work by crafting a Hefty Furnace Pot from the ingredients that you collected earlier on. The next step is to hop on Torrent, where you'll need to get up to an elevated position above the Furnace Golem that's blocking the entryway into the main courtyard of the ruins. Once on the balcony, you can throw the Hefty Furnace Pot into the Golem to activate him, and from here you really have two options. Option A, you can just hop down from the balcony and skate past the Furnace Golem and run directly into the courtyard, where you'll find the stone altar to activate your sword. Or option B, you can hop down on Torrent and bring down the Golem in whatever method that you favor. Obviously, I went with option B on this one, but for this Golem, since it's unarmored, I just went with the Dragon Ice incantation to stance break his legs, and then used the Marius Executioner Sword to stab him in the face. There are tons of ways you can bring Furnace Golems down, but this method happens to be my favorite, since you can cast Dragon Ice from horseback and maintain that mounted mobility. Keep in mind you'll need to stance break his legs 3 times before he falls over, opening him up for that critical hit. After either bringing the Golem down or scooting past him, you can head southeast into the ruins, where you'll discover the Altar of Darkness. It's important to note that the reason you really want to do it in this order is whichever altar that you actually pick up the Stone-Sheathed Sword from becomes inactive. And since this altar is close to the side of Grace, it's easier to transform your sword here each time rather than having to run through the Rift Catacombs. In order to get to the Altar of Light, you'll need to uncover the Ancient Ruins of Rauh, which can be reached by cutting through the Shadow Keep starting at the Storehouse first floor side of Grace. Next, you'll need to progress through the ruins until you unlock the Rauh Ancient Ruins west side of Grace. From the side of Grace, just hop on Torrent and follow the path that I take, being careful to avoid enemies, especially the pest threads towards the end of the run. After exiting the Pest Cavern, you'll need to take a left where you'll notice a broken bridge. However, if you just keep running, you'll notice that it's actually an invisible bridge that you can run straight across to the circular tower in the distance. Once you make it across the bridge, you'll uncover the Altar of Light, where you can transform your Stone-Sheathed Sword into the Sword of Light. Keep in mind that at this point, you can only have either the Sword of Light active or the Sword of Darkness active. And while you can switch an unlimited amount of times, you'll need to return to the altars to do so. Stay safe out there, and as always, good hunting.